Okay, so before you say anything, I just want to tell everybody who you are. So I am speaking with Mount Sierra, aka Matt. And what's your last name? Do you want to tell us? You don't have to.
My last name is Sierra.
Sierra. Oh my God, perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. You are a mountain. You know what I mean? Like anybody who's met you in person will attest to that. You're big and strong. And you also have a really powerful, rooted presence about you, which is nice. I think there's a lot of like chaotic energy in the music scene, and you are a grounding force. Every time I meet you, you're super chill, you're super down to earth. It's just a really great every time I'm hanging out with you. So you were about to start telling me before I started recording how you started DJing. So can you start with that?
Thank you. I appreciate that. What kind of
Yeah.
work?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you the story of how I started first. I was going to get into like the whole gear thing because I saw we both have a pair of CDJ 3000s and
Yeah.
some full Atoms and a full 4-channel mixer. But I first started DJing when I was active duty. I was stationed in Japan,
Okay.
and you know I left the United States right as EDM was taking off, like 2012, 2013. It's
Yeah.
like, man, I want to do this. And I never had the chance. One of my good friends, Rashawn, he was DJing out in clubs and bars in Japan. So he got me in there, and, I got a mixer. I was DJing big room at the time, so there wasn't much skill needed with that. But
Right.
it was fun. I had a mixer. I got into that. I quickly learned that if I wanted to get anywhere, I needed to learn how to produce. So I stopped that. I didn't want to get stuck in the local DJ realm, which
Yeah.
is because, yeah. So I stopped learning how to DJ, or I stopped DJing out in town rather, and
Yeah.
I producing. Fast forward, a couple years. Actually, I quickly stopped producing because I realized how hard it was. I moved
Yeah.
back to the States, and in 2017, I got back into producing. I was like, you know what? I initially had started with Logic, and at the time, Logic was a little bit more archaic. It wasn't as drag and drop as it is now.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows Logic can attest to that. Like that ESX24
Sure.
really kicked my butt. Trying to understand MIDI and,
Sure.
files, audio files, all that. It was just really hard. So I moved back to the United States in 2016, 2017. I dove into Ableton, and since then it's just been,
Oh.
yeah, exactly.
I know. I love Ableton so much. I was thinking about learning what did you just Logic? I was thinking about learning Logic just to have an even Cubase, just to kind of have diversity. But it's hard to switch when Ableton is so perfect. I'm a little familiar with Pro Tools, and Ableton is like so much better than that. So it's hard to imagine going to
Right.
another program now. Yeah. So
I've always,
yeah, go ahead.
I've always wanted to dive into FL actually.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Back in the day, FL wasn't on Apple yet, and so many of my favorite producers use FL. So I was like, I want to use this, and now I'm just so deep into Ableton that it doesn't really make sense for me. But I still have that itch. Same
Yeah.
with Logic. There's a lot of things Logic does better than Ableton.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I'm an Ableton fanboy, so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's pretty much the only one I know, so I don't have a
Right.
lot of room to talk. But I love it. I have no complaints with it at all. It's super easy. It crashes sometimes when I use Omnisphere, but I think that's just me using Omnisphere too much, probably.
Yeah,
So,
you got 10 instances up. Omnisphere takes.
well, right. So much space, yeah. And the thing is that you've got it once you pick it, you got to set it. You know what I mean? So you can't really, because it just takes up so much space, and it'll just fuck with shit. But anyway, so okay, so you started producing and mixing first, a little bit of producing, back into producing in 2017. How many tracks have you produced since then?
I have a buttload of them.
Great.
I couldn't even tell you because I have so many like that I've abandoned, and
Yeah.
so many like right now what I'm trying to do is actually finish some of the tracks I started in like 2019.
Okay.
A lot of my favorite tracks that I produced that I didn't really have like the technical know-how, but the feeling is there, so I'm
Sure.
coming back and finishing those up, and they're coming out nicely. I've
That's
released
awesome.
about
Yeah.
10, 11 tracks officially.
Congratulations. That's amazing. Congratulations.
I just dropped an acid techno track 2 weeks ago. It's based. I used the vocal from Batman: The Dark Knight. I don't know if you've heard it. It's
I have heard the song. Yeah, I love the song. It's so good.
Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
that's my latest release. I'm working on a couple other tracks. I'm trying to do some remixes now lately.
Yeah.
Just, I think that's
Yeah. It's like practicing your chops without having to create something from scratch. The creating something from scratch is the exhausting part. Why the Batman Dark Knight? What was the inspiration for that?
Just techno, really.
Okay. Yeah.
So, without sounding too cliche, I've been listening to techno for a hot minute.
Yeah.
I went to my first event in LA in 2008.
Okay.
Stevie Aoki was the headliner. But when I say Stevie Aoki, this isn't like the Stevie Aoki we know now. This guy back then, he was playing like punk music.
Okay.
And
Okay.
he hadn't released Warp yet, which was arguably his biggest track, a decade ago.
Sure.
So he was at a different point in his career. Laidback Luke was there, Cedric Gervais, however you say it, Steve Angelo. Like, this is a pre-EDM event. It was called the Love Festival.
Okay.
And I instantly fell in love with dance music. And I went back home. I was in Texas. I was visiting for the summer, and there were no events. The events that I did find were techno events. So, like Adam Bayer, Ida, his wife, Magda, a lot of like the Minimal Crew, Dubfire, Infected Mushroom. Not really techno, but back then it was kind of different.
Sure.
Lee Burridge, just a lot of names that I didn't know, for one. And just techno has now come back to the forefront, or I wouldn't even say come back. It's at the forefront of dance music.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's where house is on its way out and techno is here. People are going nuts for it.
Yeah, and I've embraced it a bit more since about 2019. I was like, oh, this is spicy. I like this. I've been dropping it in my sets, and now I'm kind of going full into it. And I was having a discussion with one of my friends and my manager about I love progressive house, I love big room, I love cheesy vocals, I love fist pumping, I love all of that. That music is a reason why I started DJing. And having said that, techno was always there since the beginning. So like, oh, you're like new to this, you're changing lanes and you're like going with the trend. I was like, no, this isn't even like if anything, I started with techno, with the deeper, darker sounds of dance music, back in 2007, 8, even parts of 2009. There's some Bloghouse stuff. Electro was on the up and coming, but all of the events, at least in my city of El Paso, Texas, of all places, techno is what they were booking, is what they were bringing. So it was either I go to that or I go to like some hip hop party and crank that Soldier Boy, which not my forte. So every weekend I was at Club 101 listening to the sounds of the underground. And now here we are in 2024 and 2023 and even 2020, which is when I started DJing again, coming back to techno. And one of my favorite DJs, Hardwell, he took a hiatus and he came back with this big room techno sound. I was at Ultra when he debuted it, and at the time I was like, this is cool. I wish he was playing big room, but eventually it caught on to me, and I came back to this sound that was there at the beginning of my raving career. And I was watching Batman, and I heard Bane talk about this darkness quote, how he was born in it, he was molded by it, he didn't see the light till he was already a man. And just thought, the similarities between me and raving and my choices in music. I started with techno, and I didn't see pop, EDM, cheese until I was already developed. And so
you grew up, techno is in your blood.
Exactly.
Coursing through your veins. And awesome that you were getting that sound in El Paso. That they had options for you for that. Yeah.
The scene there is insane, or at least it
Is it?
was.
Yeah.
I would say it rivaled like Austin, Houston, Dallas, the bigger cities, if not beat them. Now, I couldn't say that, but back then,
Yeah.
you got some really big names before they blew up. I remember seeing Kaskade like 3 times in a single year. Deadmau5 in 2000, I think 8 or 9. I saw him twice in one day, which
Yeah.
is
That's amazing. That's amazing.
before Strobe, before, back when Ghost and Stuff didn't even have words on it.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, festivals weren't even that big back then, right? We had how many? Like there were, you know what I mean? It's like your opportunities to just see these artists and for them to be even able to tour was
Mm-hmm.
so much different back in 2008. I mean,
Right.
I'm trying to even remember the scene myself. I was living in New York back then. And yeah, there was maybe a little bit of industrial stuff coming out of there, but I wasn't really that into it. I mean, it was all still very like I was listening to EDM in high school when I was going to raves, like, like a little baddie. I mean, I was a goody two shoes at home, but then I would sneak out and go to like raves. But that was, I mean, and I always liked listening to industrial music. But yeah, but the techno is like, I don't know, it's all I want to hear after a certain hour.
Oh yeah,
You
those hours.
know, Well, yeah, I mean, and I like bass, but but even bass is like, I mean, it's great, but at the very, very end of the night, it's better to like, you want something big, but you also want it to be a little bit more rhythmic than like bass.
Right. No, I
So,
understand.
yeah, yeah, because we're trying to lull people, we're trying to get them at some point to go home. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like if you play bass music at like 4, nobody's going home. But yeah, the after scene is like, I don't know. I've seen you play so many afters and you always crush it. I'm always dancing my butt off. I love it. And you bring such good energy too. So I want to like, that's what I think is so spectacular about you is that you bring a presence to the DJ booth that is commanding, but you also are like approachable and down to earth. So how do you like in terms of performance, like what are you thinking about when you're up there?
It depends. For the longest time, I was like, oh, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. But the more I've practiced and played out live, that feeling has gone away. Now I just kind of focus on, I want to make sure these people are enjoying my set. I want people to dance. For the longest time, you go in there and you might program your playlist or what have you. Never pre-record, of course, but you have an idea of what you think is going to work and what you want to give the crowd, and you just shoot and hope for the best. Of course, you're reading the crowd and, oh, maybe they're not feeling this, or maybe I should do something else, and you adjust.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I know. I like that. I like that you admit to like being worried about messing up because that's always the first thing. I'm always so nervous. I'm always like, oh my God, my stomach. I'm like, I'm going to press the wrong button. I'm going to train wreck or whatever. But then you get going and you kind of let loose a little bit. I do anyway.
Definitely let
Yeah.
loose. I was having a talk with a friend who's also a DJ, and she was telling me how like she's always nervous before her sets. And I was like, dude, same. I feel like once you stop being nervous, some of that magic is gone. It's part of that antsy angst,
Yeah.
where at least for myself, that expectation to perform at the highest level is
Sure.
coming.
Of course. Now, you mentioned that you were stationed out in Japan. So how long were you in the service?
5 years, and
Okay.
3 I spent in Japan.
That's
So
wonderful. That's great that you got 3 of those 5 years in Japan. How is that?
it was amazing. It was some
Yeah.
of the best time in my life. Some of the worst time as well. Um, the military is kind of regimented and structured, and at
Yeah.
the time I was very, anarchistic. I just
Hmm.
I moved there as a 21-year-old man, so I was at the height of my like rebellious phase, and
Sure.
don't tell me what
Sure.
to do. but I'm also in the military, so I have to listen. And it was a lot of learning, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, but I guess that's part of the military experience. It's also where, I started exploring my artistry and my creative side. So
yeah, yeah. Well, it probably also taught you a lot of discipline in terms of how to work with your career, wanting to move music forward, working on it, the diligence there. My dad was military, so I'm very familiar with the energy behind being in the military. And there is a structure to it that I was actually pretty rebellious to as a kid, but at the same time now I'm grateful for it because I can appreciate structure. Structure is how I'm able to actually make progress with music.
Definitely.
Do you
Yeah,
think
I need structure and environment. Otherwise, I'll just go off the rails and not get anything.
Right. Well, especially because you're a creative.
Right.
Like creatives, that we have this like frenetic energy that we are pulling down into art projects. And, but it's all so up here that without the structure to pull it down, nothing ever, we never finish a song. It's like we need the structure to actually be able to finish a song. So what are your goals? What are Mount Sierra's goals for 2024?
It's a good question. I'd like to continue releasing music this year. I'd like to have at least, I got one down, so maybe release something monthly. I got a nice little back catalog I'm building. Maybe not originals, remixes, bootlegs, what have you. I definitely, I'm trying to secure more gigs. So
Great.
I just got off the phone with a friend like 20 minutes before this, and I secured something at EOS Lounge.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's like, a sizable venue. And
Congratulations.
It's also, I haven't played yet, so I'm really excited about that. And I guess my biggest goal for this year is to get into like more reputable venues. I've played at Avalon Academy.
Yeah.
Academy side room, but I'd like to get on their like main floor.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Get more eyes on me, and of course my new label, The Music Dealers.
Amazing.
Work my way towards getting some festival slots, what have you. But ultimately, I want to focus on releasing music and building my fan base, building my discography, and getting more eyes on my label and the other artists on said label, because it's not all about me, it's about us, it's a team. And
I love that. That's a theme. It's a beautiful community that we have. It's a small community and we have to treat it very, very specially. Do you let's talk about the Music Dealers since we're talking about community. So my
manager's calling me right now, but
amazing.
Shout out.
I love it. Yeah, shout out. Okay, so the Music Dealers is a label that you have put together. When did you launch?
We launched in September. It was actually, so my manager Moy and our creative director Chris both had came up with the idea last year, amongst themselves, And I helped get them a gig last year. They played Catch One. They pulled a nice sizable crowd, and our artist careers or what have you were building at the same time. And through just some fortunate happenstance, experiences, happenings, we started working together. They originally had a whole other plan that they were going to go with, and I just happened to find myself in a good situation where I can help them and they can help me, and we were able to develop, a beautiful working partnership, I guess you could say. And it started with a booking at club level. Shout out Hard Hitter Austin. I kind of went through some stuff last year which caused me to take a step away from my artistry.
Sure.
And Austin had called me and offered me a headline gig at club level, Dirty Laundry, and he kind of pulled me out of this funk. So I'm like eternally grateful for that.
Yeah.
He offered me a night at his residency, let me curate the lineup. And I had told these guys, hey, we hadn't really had any music dealers events or anything really, but I was like, I have this chance to showcase my music and I'd love to have you guys on. So that was kind of the birth of the music dealers.
Amazing. Amazing. That's amazing.
So I had this opportunity, I brought them in, and then from there we just quickly snowballed into another event, some after hours spots at, you know, TVA. Added a few other artists to our roster, such as Buster Coon. It's my friend Bernard. He's a stand-up guy.
Amazing.
And just since then, we've been adding and building. We had our first music dealer showcase at Pattern Bar, December 29th. Followed that up with a sick back-to-back at Lick and Dip with Buster and I.
Amazing.
You know, I'm sure you're familiar with Pattern Bar. It's not like the biggest place.
Yeah, but I mean, I was there that night. You guys packed it.
Yeah, over I think 300 people came through the door. It's like a 200-person venue.
Yeah, it was. I've never seen it that packed, and I've been to Pattern Board a handful of times. Like
me neither.
You know, yeah, it was crazy that night. You guys crushed it.
And you know, that's something that I wouldn't have been able to do by myself. I've played there before to a crowd of 5, another time 30. You know,
yeah.
5. But we were able to pack that place out, you know, because of this team that we've built. KP, Born to Rage. KP.
Yeah, I love him. I cannot wait to interview him too. He's, I love him. Yeah. Born to Rage.
Hard.
Yeah.
You know, Tommy Church. He's my really he's one of my best friends. He's based in San Diego. Yeah. And he's the reason I met my manager. So shout out him.
Yeah.
Between those 3 DJs, myself, Chris, Moy, and our just extended network, we were able to pack that place out. So again, it goes back to that teamwork aspect of it. We brought on my friend Anika. She's one of our like content creators, bloggers, writers. She's interviewing lots of people and doing really good work.
Amazing.
We got Chris, who's, you know, creating and recording videos for us. Moyes, who's making everything. Dijon, who's doing a lot of our back end and you know, website type stuff. One of the brains behind it, and of course Brian. He's one of our guys down in San Diego who's just helping get us indoors that I wouldn't have been able to do on my own. And I'm not sure if I'm missing anybody else. It's all our DJs. And then, you know, all of our support people. I just played a show this past weekend with my friend Alec at Pulse Lab. It was his debut event. He pulled 300 people for his first event, which is insane.
Wow.
For a warehouse.
Yeah.
He caught the attention of some notable people in the scene, which I'll leave unnamed, but they know who they are. Just, wow, this is amazing. Like I couldn't have done this all on my own. I was trying to do these types of things on my own. It just wasn't clicking. And it wasn't until, you know, I had people believe in me and I believed in them, and you know, some magical stuff happening. I'm of the school of thought that a rising tide, you know, lifts all ships, and our tide is rising. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Congratulations. Yeah, it sounds like you have all the momentum going strong. So what are the goals for the music dealers for this year?
Man, I made a whole presentation about this. I won't bore you with that, but this year I think we're just trying to cultivate our artists, grow our fan base, and build more, you know, build more relationships and grow our network. Because again, this is a community effort, and we're nothing without the people who come to our events and listen to our music. And cultivate our artists. Our you know, I've got Tommy Church releasing his first song this weekend, and that's
amazing.
But that's huge. You know, I've been trying to push him to release music since he lived in LA, since we were roommates, and I wasn't able to do it, but the music dealers got him to do it. So
amazing. Amazing. That's all. Yeah, it's a team effort, community
Yeah,
driven, community
exactly.
driven. Yeah. So music wise, I know you started DJing when you were in Japan, but were you into music before that?
Yeah, I would say so. I come from a very musical family. I recently
Okay.
found out my great grandmother taught herself how to play like 5 or 6 instruments, which is insane. I was like, oh,
That's amazing.
that's where I get that music bone.
Yeah.
My uncle's was a mariachi singer and a dancer,
Yeah.
and I mean he still is. He's an actor out in Hollywood out here, so definitely get
Amazing.
a lot of inspiration from him. Um, I never personally had anyone cultivate this, my artist side in me. So when I got old enough to act and be able to do it on my own, I did it, and I'm doing it. Um, so
Amazing.
what's the question? Sorry.
Oh no, I was asking about the goals for the music dealer, and then I was asking about your history with music. So you're telling me about your grandmother, and
Oh
then
yeah,
your grandfather or your uncle, I think, is a performer out in LA. But yeah,
yeah,
but you've always in your blood. You have
yeah.
family that has been doing this. Yeah.
I took some choir classes and piano classes back in high
Okay.
school
Okay.
and middle school actually, and after that I got into sports. So that kind
Sure.
of became my main thing. But then, my senior year of high school, I went to that first rave. Shout out my cousin Chris. Uh, and my life was never the same. So I was kind of the kid pulling everyone to these raves. And, back then it was kind of seen as a weird thing. But it
Mm.
wasn't until I joined the military and I had free time and I was like, I want to do this. And then came back and have been teaching myself some of that, piano again. I did end up attending Icon to cultivate, the production side.
Okay. Cool.
But as far as like the actual musicality of it all, it's just
Yeah.
it's
I
something
didn't know that you were icon.
yeah, it's
Okay. Awesome.
it's the reason I moved to LA,
Okay.
and
Okay. Was to go to icon.
yeah.
That's amazing.
So I learned quite a bit there, but instrument wise, they only teach you so much. You can only learn so much through a class without actually
Of
applying.
of course, of course, of course. It's like good for techniques and learning like that, but you have to actually apply
Yeah,
what you're learning and making music.
I've got two
So
guitars here that I don't know how to use. So I spent my time learning how to, play
yeah,
those.
exactly. Yeah. Well, and you have a voice, so that's an instrument. You sing.
Thank you.
You sing choir. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a piano here that I do like to go pluck out melody lines on, but I don't really know how to play it that well. You know what I mean? So, and yeah, I've thought about teaching myself bass guitar, but the same thing that you're saying, I'll probably just like get it and I'll probably just like sit on my wall and then I'll never actually, because I'm just playing bass on, not even on this, but like when I'm producing, I can just write bass on my MIDI, you know?
I'm a
So
big wizard, so I feel that.
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I spent a fair amount of time researching and learning, watching tutorials. Some of my favorite artists,
yeah,
Avicii, for example, at the tail end of his career, he knew how to play the keys, but in the beginning, he was clicking and he was doing all sorts of
right.
stuff. And I took that and I ran with it. So I'm pretty good at like drawing out and creating, MIDI patterns and melodies.
Yeah.
Got to the point where I forced myself to learn what I was creating. But
Yeah.
being able to improvise and just produce it's a God-given talent,
Yeah. Well, not even knowing the keys and like knowing like what key to stay in. My thing is that like I'll come up with something in my head and I'll pluck it out, but I don't necessarily know the key. And I have a whole bunch of training.
Yeah,
I have music theory training, but even still being able to quickly find what key it is because I'm usually liking minor stuff instead of major, but I think I switched from major to minor quite a bit. So finding that, yeah, but it's all fun. It's the only thing I do. Like I came home last night and it was like 9:30 and I had a full day, it was super Sunday. I didn't go like super crazy, but it was a big weekend. It was just a big weekend, right? And so I was like tired when I got home and I'm like, nope, I'm gonna produce, I'm gonna build out a melody line, like I'm gonna do it. And before I know it, it's like midnight. I'm like not even tired, I just start creating in the dawn, I'm not tired at all. I think it's one of the things that stimulates my brain more than anything else. Like I'll be up, I have to stop, I have to force myself to go to bed.
Same. You know,
Yeah.
I went to bed
best.
last night at about like 2, 3,
Okay.
which is 3 hours earlier than I normally do. I've been finding myself fall asleep like at 5,
Oof.
and horrible because I have to be up at like noon or 1 for work.
Okay.
So I forced myself to go to bed yesterday early. And I still struggle to get up today. So
Well, thank you for waking up for this. I
oh,
really
yeah,
appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Well, it's also perfect. You're listen, your timing is perfect for all those afters, all the late night afters. Because I have to say, like for me, I'm not used. I mean, I'll go to them sometimes, but like I'm not necessarily used to those hours. So that'll be a push. That'll be like a Red Bull night, you know?
seriously.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm just not used to. I mean, I can stay up pretty late, but to be able to play a set. One of my friends, she just played a set this past weekend and then drove back to Palm Springs afterwards. And her set ended at like 4:30. I was like, you're crazy, but it's just
It's
that's
insane.
the life of a DJ, the life of a
Seriously.
DJ. Yeah.
I guess that is one of my goals for this year. I'm trying to get earlier
Yeah.
sets.
Okay.
This past weekend I played at 10:30, which was awesome because it's you're playing to a completely different crowd. And
Totally.
your track selection changes. But
Totally.
going back to that scheduling thing, I normally work 2:30 to 11 p.m.
Okay.
So I get off of work and then by the time I wind down, it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
That plays perfectly in with the late night DJ stuff.
Totally. Oh my gosh, totally. Yeah, with your job.
Yeah.
Your job for now. I mean, the
Yeah.
music dealers is taken off. You're not going to have a lot of time for that job for very much longer.
Yeah, I joke with people that the medical stuff is my side job, my side gig, and this
I
is
mean, kind of is now. Yeah, it is the side. So what is your I mean, medical, because that's pretty impressive too. What do you do?
I'm a surgical tech, so I set up and assist doctors with surgery.
Oh my God.
The extra pair of hands.
That's crazy. So you're like seeing like people's guts and stuff.
Oh yeah, all the time.
All the time. Oh my gosh. Were you doing that in the military? Were you medical?
It's where I was trained, and
Okay.
it's interesting. It's exhilarating. It's
Yeah.
had I not done it in the military, I think I would like it a lot more.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, it's a good job.
It's
a good job, but it doesn't make your heart sing.
Yeah, no.
Right. The thing is that
I enjoy helping people, so it's
yeah.
awesome to know I'm making a difference. But
Yeah.
I'm there thinking of this. So
yeah, exactly. And the thing is that there are people who are in your job, or even surgeons, who for them that is the creative part. That is their creative, right? That's the way that they can express their artistry is through surgical precision, right? So it's all the more reason to follow our hearts. It's not, there's nothing wrong with being a surgical assistant. It just doesn't make your heart sing.
Right.
So, yeah.
It helps that I'm good at it. If I wasn't good at it, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
Because I'd be putting people at risk and just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. So, okay. So what advice do you have for people new coming up in the scene?
Find a good mentor. A good mentor, I think, can cut years, months, if not years, off of progress.
Yeah.
A bad one can harm you so bad. When I was in Japan, one of my friends was a hip hop producer. I won't name him, but if he's watching this, he'll know exactly who he is. And he gave me some pretty shitty advice about using like samples and loops that really set me back like 3 years, I'd say, because I refused to use samples and loops, and I was trying to do everything, myself, but I didn't have that base music theory knowledge or even that base music production knowledge.
Yeah.
So I was making some really like Fisher Price beats. And, just very amateur stuff for the longest time, which was cool because I got good at being creative and creating, but my music didn't progress the way I think it should have, or
Yeah.
I wanted it to. And it wasn't until, I got over that advice and I realized like that probably doesn't make the most sense, that things started shifting and changing and growing.
Yeah. That's such good advice too, because there are different schools of thought. I definitely talked to some producers, I'm not naming names, who scoff at my decision to use loops and to use samples, and be like, well, it's because you're using a sample on this. I'm like, well, but I'm not trying to I'm okay with samples. I actually think that there are so many sound designers who can make a way better 808 than me. So like, why wouldn't I use that? I feel like music is collaborative. I mean, it's not like I'm stealing it. I'm paying for the sample, right? So it's like, right. So I feel like music is collaborative. My day job is writing and editing. And even with stories, it's like, to even try to think that there's like, that you have like an original idea is kind of a joke. Like what new stories are really an amalgamation of like different types of stories from here and from there. And if you look at kind of anything, you can really trace it back and there's a reference from something else. So anyway, I love using samples. I love using loops. My first song has total like a horse hoof sample. Like how the fuck am I going to get that? I'm going to have to go like record my horse like running to get make that sound myself.
Yeah.
So, now what I did do is I took it and I put it on meter. I adjusted it. Didn't just plop it in there and not make any changes to it. But yeah, so your advice is, what was that?
Oh, no, continue. I was just going to say, yeah, you got to change it around at least a little bit, but
At least a little, but yeah. But anyway, any other advice you want to give like young producers? What about young DJs?
So for the producers, I'd say find a good mentor, use quality samples, because you can have the best track ever, but if your kick is lacking, that's gonna affect your whole track fundamentally. And you might be using just a shitty sample. Using a good quality sample can change your track from night and day. Also, just sample selection and sound choice is key. And those two things, you can really elevate a track, and a mentor for producers. DJs.
And I'm selfish because I'm eating all this up.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like every DJ at the beginning of their career, or at least most of them, will do the YouTube and SoundCloud rips, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but don't DJ with those out, because you can tell, and it's, I don't know, a little insulting, I'd say. I've heard.
What do you mean by that? And excuse my naivete, I have no idea what you're talking about. You mean like plugging in to SoundCloud or YouTube via the mixer?
No, so you can I guess steal music from like YouTube or SoundCloud, or there's other ways to rip it, which
I see.
Against it,
I see. Not paying for music. I see.
Oh no, playing out those tracks. I've been at a couple events and venues where this person I know that they can afford the track. They're wearing like Gucci, or they're wearing really nice clothes. They have a headline set, and the quality of the track that they're playing is just lacking. So when they mix in that track, you can hear like the mids are muddied, and
I see.
The kick isn't thumpy, or the volume is lower, and it's like a Swedish House Mafia track, or it's some track that is like, it's a big track, but the quality is just low. It's a shitty version of said track. So it's like, you're playing out. You are fortunate enough to have these great slots. Like, and invest in your library, I guess.
Yes.
Advice.
Yes. And that's, I think, something that a lot of DJs aren't aware of when they're first coming up. And you could use Tidal, on Serato, but, there are ways to use music and not have to necessarily pay per track. But that's something, that's an expense that like you don't necessarily are like thinking about when you're first getting started. But if
Yeah,
you want to be like open format, I mean, you're looking at like probably thousands of dollars that you need to invest in music.
right. And I mean, there's all these cloud, you know,
Yeah, like Tidal, like
the
yeah.
new Beatport cloud, SoundCloud cloud,
Uh-huh.
and there's ways around buying every single track. You could join a record pool, or I mean, if you're gonna go and rip these songs, at least get like a good quality kit. So, you know,
Totally.
there's a lot of
Totally.
file sharing sites,
Yeah.
and a lot of DJs give their songs away for free.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially, these bootlegs and these remixes that they can't monetize anyways.
Right. 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 Right.
So,
Well, right. If they can't monetize it, they might as well.
yeah, I'd say just quality tracks. It's one thing to practice with, rips, but say you get a headline gig at Club XYZ or you're playing EDC or Coachella, you don't want to get up there and play something that's going to sound horrible on that amazing sound system.
Right. No, you're not. You're not going to find that's it. I think that also the fact that you can hear it. I would argue that maybe the younger or like, and when I say younger, I really should say inexperienced, because age isn't, who cares? It's not really about the age. It's more about inexperience. But their ear is probably not as developed either. So they may not even recognize that the track that they are pulling
Yeah.
is of lesser quality. You know what I mean? And you can tell because you have a very refined ear.
Yeah.
And they probably don't even know. So that's also kind of good advice. It's like, you may not realize, so just buy the actual track or join one of those, music pools or something, because the quality, like, you don't have a good enough ear to determine whether or not the quality of something you're ripping is good enough.
Yeah. It's just something that came to mind a couple months ago. I
Yeah.
was watching this one individual play, and like their set was amazing. Track selection was on point. Their stage presence was, amazing, awesome.
Yeah.
But when they transitioned to this one song, and I'm only saying this because it's one of my favorite tracks, like, it was just such a horrible quality rip that kind of caused some dance floor clearing. People were like, "Oh," it was like a notable shift in the energy. It was like a high quality. It was a big room track, so I like that should
That's interesting.
be your
Yeah.
stomper.
Right. But clearly they must have ripped it because it lost something and the audience could tell.
Yeah, just that oomph that you expect from those kinds of tracks.
Well, for sure. For sure. Yeah. All right. Last question. What is your favorite DJ set so far?
Like, as a fan, like someone set that I've
that you've played.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. I feel like the other question's even tougher though. Like, I can't pick just one like set that's like my favorite set ever that I've seen, because it changes like depending on my mood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can answer both of them if you like.
Okay, great. Please.
Although I didn't see this one, but a set that I've listened to at least 100 times and that single-handedly made me want to DJ is Kaskade's EDC 2012 set. I wasn't there, but I found it on YouTube and I was like, I love this kind of music. And then I looked into it, and that is a big room set. It was the first time I heard Hardman's Spacewell, but Hardwell's Spaceman.
Sure.
My personal favorite set I played last March at Lick and Dip / Underwear Disco Distortion, back when they were working together. It was my first time incorporating tech house, big room, techno, house, just everything in one set. And I know a lot of people who follow me and listen might not vibe with it that well because they expect something from me. But I feel like that was my first time actually exploring like my true artistry and my roots as a DJ. And yeah, it was amazing. And I played a good amount of my own tracks. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. And especially being able to play your own tracks, and like, I think that's always super fun.
For me, being able to play big room at an underground was everything because
I mean, it's crazy. How did the audience like it? Did they
they
they lose
loved
their
it.
shit?
Yeah, they absolutely loved it. Again, it was my first time playing Hardwell's Spaceman,
Yeah.
and just the way I mixed it in, and my technique and the way just my method of mixing it in really dictated the way they took it in. And I never had the courage to try that before, but yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. Any final words? Anything you want to leave me with? Any final thoughts?
Thank you for this.
Oh, thank you.
You're the first person I've actually sat down and talked to
Amazing.
in this fashion, and just thanks for this.
Amazing. Well, I'm kicking you off then, because it's gonna be nonstop from now on.
All right,
Gonna have people talking to you all the time. Yeah, it's gonna be nonstop.
I'm
Yeah.
down. I guess follow at mountainSierramusic.com and at the Music Dealers, please.
Yeah. I love everything that the Music Dealers is doing. I mean, I didn't even realize that you guys had put that together until recently. So I'm really excited about it, and I love Born to Rage. So, and the music is always fire. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you guys do.
We'll make sure to pass that along.
Yeah, amazing. Well, have a great rest of your day, and hey, have fun at work. I guess I don't know if fun is the right word to use to describe what you do, but like have a good day at work.
Yeah,
save a lot of lives. Yeah, you're
welcome.
With a
great group of people. So
yeah, I'll bet you do.
I'm still working, so
yeah. I was gonna say it's always about the team. So all right, well, hey, have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you soon. Thank you again, Matt.
Bye. Take care.